Okay, I have here the Lone Ranger. He's a doctor. He's quite knowledgeable about arms. He's got some, he calls it equipment. And he's got some really, really awesome equipment. I'm telling you, he's really into, a lot of times we'll go out maybe to Cabela's and he's looking through their binoculars and their spotting scopes and all sorts of stuff. And he's got some, matter of fact, because of him, I have a rangefinder and I play with it right now. And it's a good idea to play with it so you get an idea without having the rangefinder how far something is away from you. And so you can find out by looking through the rangefinder, take a guess, and then look through it and see how far it actually is and get it to where you can guess, make a good educated guess without the rangefinder, how far something away is away. And you need to know that kind of information if you're going to have good marksmanship. Anyways, so there, Dr. Lone Ranger.
Maybe I should change my name to Dr. Lone Rangefinder.
There you go, Lone Rangefinder.
But it is so important. These are dire days. We are in the gravest extreme, and most people don't know it. I said to a friend of mine the other day, I'm going to go over to Lowe's and get some plastic buckets, and I'm going to take one and put it over my head, and that will let people know that I really don't understand what's going on, and it'll be obvious. It's kind of a statement that this is how I go through life, but nobody knows it except me.
Well, some people out there, you wonder if they aren't doing that. That's for sure.
Well, I was going to buy one for you, but I couldn't find one big enough to fit.
I guess. Well, you know, there's three kinds of people. There's those that make things happen. There's those that watch things happen, and I hope I'm in that second category, because the last group is those that wonder what happened.
Well, a lot of people are wondering what's going on, and there's a concept. There's a book called The Fourth Turning, and in it, these two historians say about every 250 years, everything just simply blows up, and society goes through a period of time after a depression or a war. The first turning is people work hard, they're poor, they don't have much, they work hard, and they begin to develop a civilization. The second turning is they got things together, they're working hard and making progress. The third turning is they get fat and lazy, and their children go completely insane. They dye their hair purple, put a bone through their nose, and talk about their homosexual escapades on nationwide TV. And then the fourth turning, it all falls down. And we are in the fourth turning.
Yep, I have to say. I mean, it's pretty obvious, yeah. And it's kind of interesting because it's been about 217 or 1776. It's about 250 years.
It's about 250 years.
Yeah.
And there is nothing that can stop it. And if you're not prepared, my projections, and I'll stand by this, I had projected years ago that we would go through a time of turmoil where we would lose about 150 million people to starvation, violence, or infectious disease. Most people don't realize that during the Big Depression, the Great Depression, 25% of the American population died prematurely of conditions relating to malnutrition, inadequate nutrition. People don't realize that.
Yeah, they don't tell you about that in the history books, do they?
No, they really don't. A lot of people died. And it was at a time when people had a cow and some chickens and a little little garden out and back.
Yeah, they don't have that now.
No, everybody in American society these days is what I call a member of the Soft Hands Club. When I was young, I used to use a hammer. I used to dig with a shovel, use a pick, use an axe. I had calluses on my hands. I don't think I've met anybody in the last 20 years who had calluses anywhere than on the seat of their butt. That's where people get calluses these days. They don't work. And they don't understand that when it gets cold and there's no food, that's not so good. And I think they're going to get a belly full of that in the not too far distant future.
I think it's not looking too good. preparedness is extremely important. I've always been someone who was into that. I grew up, I started out as a mechanic in 1976, an airplane mechanic on helicopters. And so I've always, they used to call me the hydraulic jack, because I do an arm wrestle with somebody because I was used to turning wrenches.
Yeah.
I had pretty good biceps, so I'd beat just about anybody in an arm wrestle, Anyways, but that's because I was turning wrenches, But anyways, so, but what we're going to talk about today is militias, and I think that that's really a timely thing. I think personally, that we're in the middle of a communist takeover, and I think you're right. I think there's going to be, all these people that took the medicine. We'll call it the medicine because this might be on YouTube, so we're going to be a little bit politically correct here. And there's people that took the medicine, and they're in denial. There's a friend of mine that he's getting heart issues, and he's got to go see a cardiac surgeon now. And I told him that there's things you can do to mitigate that medicine, but he's in complete denial. And so, there's not much you can do to help people like that. I just told him I don't want him kicking the bucket on me, and we need him around. And, anyways, I guess we'll see. We're a captive audience. I think, well, there's a guy that I know, his name's David Strait. He's a friend. I know his wife even better. I knew her before I knew him. She's actually in prison right now. But he talked about how when they first got married, they used to go to estate sales around here. And before 2020, they had an app on their phone, and there would be like, on a weekend, then in the DFW area, there'd be like, maybe half a dozen estate sales. And now with the same app, there's hundreds of them. So there's something going on. I think it's a die-off. Some people might want to contribute it to some medicine. They might want to contribute it to other things. I don't know. But there's definitely there's a die-off happening. And then if we have all these people coming across the border and there's a guy, a friend was saying recently, Darren, that there was a Texas Ranger at a meeting he was at on Saturday that said that they expect some things to start happening soon, like very soon, with how would you put it? That things that are going to happen where people are going to have to start the militias of the several states. The Second Amendment says what does it say? It says a well-regulated militia being necessary to a free state, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I think that's just about a quote right there, Doctor.
How many? Yeah, absolutely. How many times in the Constitution is the word necessary used?
Well, and that's another thing you pointed out to me. Why don't you say it? I'll let you have the thunder.
There's only one place in the whole document where the word necessary is used, and that is in reference to the militia.
That's right.
The militias are a state institution.
That's right.
Private militias are not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about private military, paramilitary. We're talking about the militia of the several states established in the Constitution as being absorbed into the federal structure, but they pre-existed the federal government by a long time. They came along in the 1600s. But the word militia initially was back in Roman days, and it was all the people.
Right. And they were actually in colonial days, they were required. Everyone was required to be armed and part of the militia, right?
The only gun control legislation there was said that you have to have a gun. That was the gun, and you had to have ammo. And they said basically you just can't live here and ask us to provide protection. You're going to participate, and that's the end of it. So It was compulsory,
Right.
and the militias are a state institution. And the concept of revitalizing a pre-existing institution has a tremendous historical foundation and legal foundation. And there are colonial statutes that are just perfect for what we need.
There was a guy by the name of Edwin Vieira. He's got 4 PhDs from Harvard. He's a lawyer, or I guess he was. He got disbarred, I heard.
Yeah.
But he's a brilliant guy. He's written this book, Volume 1, that I'm going to be doing a video on it here soon, about Volume 1, Homeland Security, The Nation in Arms, Volume 1, The Nation in Arms. And it's about the militia. It's about Constitutional Homeland Security, Volume 1, The Nation in Arms is what the title is. And
we the people.
We the people. That's right.
People.
That's the Second Amendment being necessary for a free state. We cannot be free if we're not armed. Okay, we have to be armed, and we have to be organized, and be ready to step up. And I think that we're in Texas, and with all this stuff going on at the border, I think it's not too far where militias are going to be forced to organize. Cliff High, who is a computer nerd, and he has these data sets, and he discovered in the 90s that we're psychic, but we don't know it, but what comes out and how we use our words. And so he had a web bot that scraped the internet and looked for changes in how we use our words. And he said he's been talking about this stuff since the early 2000s. And one of the things he said is that the governments are going to go broke. And then that means that if that happens, well, there's going to be a lot of impoverished people, that's for sure. But the militias are going to have to step up and start providing, keep the peace. Have to keep the peace.
The militia of the several states. Each state had their own militia. They had their own uniform. It had a color. They had guys who had drums. They had drums and fifes, and they had troops, and they trained. And it was the people being responsible in a military sense, but also in a social sense. The militia, that's us. We are the militia, and we need to demand that our state representatives do what the Constitution compels them to do. Maintain the militia.
Right. Well, I think at least in Texas, I found, they really can't regulate the militia, but it does talk about it in the Texas Constitution, how the governor has the authority to call up the militia, and but it really, I haven't read too much in there. There's more stuff I have to read. The sheriff can call the militia to aid him to prevent a prisoner from escaping. There's a couple times when it says actually in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure that he can call up the militia. But I can tell you, and Edwin Vieira wrote a volume 2 of that book that's 2,700 pages. It's huge. And I've been looking through the index alone. And he goes through all of the colonial statutes that talk about the militia. And just in the index, it's saying that the militia is not subject to the county sheriff. That's we the people. But I think that if we do form our militias, we need to reach out to our county sheriff and tell them that we're here to help you, and we're not trying to usurp anything, and we're here to support you. But we don't have to do what you tell us to do. I mean, other than if you need our help, we'll come to your help, come to your aid.
Well, if society breaks down, sooner or later, people will form into groups. Dmitry Orlov was a kid who was born in Russia, came to America, went back to Russia, back and forth during the 80s and 90s, and he said, if you were a lone wolf, you would not last very long. You had to be with a group, they had to be armed, they had to have supplies, and they had to take care of each other. And in the end, the militia is nothing other than American people taking care of one another, period.
Yeah, no joke. That was in Russia, right?
That was in Russia. Yeah.
And you hear the same kind of stories going on in Croatia too, where you hear the stories about when the stuff was going on in Croatia, the snipers would be, you couldn't leave your house because the snipers, you couldn't do it in the daytime, you had to do it at night, and there was all sorts of stuff that people had. There was what was valuable was like cigarettes and whiskey. and stuff like that, and that became the medium of exchange. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
One of the things that struck me was the antiquity of the militia. It was in Roman days, and then it was in the 1600s in statute. It is a legal state institution. It has rules and regulations, and it's ours, and we have to step up and claim it. All of these alphabet agencies, the FBI, came in about what, 1930, whatever?
Yeah, they got no business. They got no authority at all.
They got no authority, certainly no authority on militia members.
Yeah, Homeland Security, and that's what this idea of this Edwin Vieira's book is. He says the constitutional Homeland Security isn't the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, it's the militia.
It's us.
That's right. It's we the people.
So there was one Englishman said, ultimately, to whom must a petition for law and order be made? It has to be made to the people and by the people, for there is no other authority on earth to which a petition can lawfully be made intelligently. We're the people. We're the ones who created everything. The Constitution, Bill of Rights, Declaration of Independence, and everything came after that. We came first.
Yep. We're going to have to, I can tell you that we're going to have to start forming militias. And I can tell you that I think in the DFW area here that we're going to start looking into it, but we want to do it within the law. There's very little in the Texas codes about militias, so I'm going to do my own research and some other people, and then we're going to contact the county sheriff and tell them that what we want to do and that we want his support, not financially, his support to make sure that we're doing it properly. And so,
we're very lucky because as of recent, the courts, especially the Supreme Court and Clarence Thomas, have said pertaining to guns and gun legislation, we must look to the earlier times, the history, the text, and the traditions of gun ownership, and upon that we can move forward with the Second Amendment. But politicians are not free to make any kind of cockamamie law they want regarding guns or anything else.
I think that's why there's not much in Texas codes for militias, because they don't really have any authority over them. All it says is that
that's a good point.
The militia, militias, the governor can call forth a militia that is according to Texas law.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's why I want to contact the county sheriff and make sure there's, that we do it properly. But at any rate, and coordinate with like the state. What do they call that? The state guard, not the state guard. There's a state state military. It's a state. It's not army or anything like that. A militia is not any reserves. It's not any guard.
It's not the National Guard.
It's not the National Guard
at all.
It's not any. Matter of fact, if you read that book by Edwin Vieira, it says that anybody that's in active reserves wouldn't be on the militia. Now, I don't see if someone's in active reserve. Inactive reserves is someone that was in the military and got out. Like if you get out, you go in the military when you're like 21 and you're in for like 4 years, and so then at 25 you get out, then you're in active reserve until you're like 40. And I don't see a problem with someone like that being in the militia. But Edwin Vieira basically said that they shouldn't be. I need to read the book a little more and see exactly what his rationale is for that. But that's one of the things that in the Texas codes, there's that in Texas codes it says that nobody can hold more than one office at the same time. But there's an exclusion. Militia is excluded from that. So you can be a militia and you can hold a public office of some sort at the same time.
This concept of, the militia are going to be demonized, and they have been demonized. And the military aspect of the militia is only one aspect. We need the militia. What happens if there's a a flood? What
Yeah,
happens
exactly.
if there's a tornado?
Exactly,
Remember-
a natural disaster or something.
Remember, was it a couple of years ago that we had a breakdown in the electricity?
Yeah.
And people went out and sat in their cars
Yeah.
in a closed garage
Right.
and turned on their cars and sat there and asphyxiated.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we need people helping people, and it needs to be somewhat organized, but certainly not regimented to the point where it takes away your individual liberty.
Right, exactly.
That's the militia.
Yeah.
So you have a
So
a
it's
choice.
more than just the military stuff, but the military stuff is an important part of it, but it's more than that. It's supporting your neighbors in a time of crisis, you know?
There are times when people need somebody to come around and check on them and to deliver some food and make sure the kids are not frozen solid.
Yeah. No joke.
So the idea of revitalizing the militia, a pre-existing, the statutes are already there. The structure is already there. The militia constitutes, according to Edwin Vieira, a fourth branch of government. You have the legislative, you have the judicial, you have the executive, and then you have we the people.
Yeah.
And if you have we the people and they're armed and organized and they talk to each other and they communicate and they're members of a community, it's difficult for the other three branches of government to go off the rails.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I was reading in Edwin Vieira's book again. He's a brilliant guy, and he talks about the Republican form of government, and what's a Republican form of government? And his argument is that one of the important things for a Republican form of government is a militia, and the militia is the people, and we the people need to be able to assert ourselves and defend ourselves against foreign enemies, and he talks about how do you know the bureaucrat is going to have his own agenda, and he's not going to guarantee your Republican form of government. It's up to we the people to decide whether our government's a Republican form of government or not. You know what I mean? I can tell you it's not a military dictatorship, that's for sure. And right now that's what we have. Is Texas is a police state, and that's one of the things Edwin Vieira says in there also is that. We're either going to have a militia or we're going to have a police state. Well, right now we've got a police state, and we needed to get it back to we the people.
The people need to participate. Most people do not understand. Things are moving fast in history. I just talked to my sister, and she said she was watching television, and there was a march and demonstration in New York City of Hamas supporters, and they were 50,000 strong. There was a fellow there taking photos of it, and she said you should have seen the look on his face. He was saying to himself, how can this happen in America? This is America, and we've been invaded from the south, we've been infiltrated, and if we, the people, do not reclaim our pre-existing lawful authority and our lawful structure, and we're the horsepower. We're the boots on the ground. It's up to us.
This is what America is all about. This is our traditions.
Yeah.
This is not something new. I mean, this is our history. And if we let this stuff die, it will be such a tragedy. We can't let it die.
Republican government, the idea of a constitutional republic and liberty under law and real rights, that people respect.
You can't count on these bureaucrats. The only thing you can count on is you and your neighbors and supporting each other. And once people do that, then the bureaucrat, he's going to know, at common law, people, sometimes I wonder if our nation's even Christian anymore because of, all of the stuff that's going on. And we the people need to step up. We're going to have to step up.
There's really no other way. There's no other power to which an appeal can be made. It's ours to protect, or it's ours to lose forever.
Yeah, no joke, huh? No joke. Anyways, this is just a short video on that we're talking about the militias. I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and you can see the front screen is what you're looking at right now. And I'm going to go through Dr. Edwin Vieira's some of the stuff that I found in his book. I would highly recommend people get a copy, although it's out of print, so they're going to be hard to find. This one I got one. It cost me $111, and then I found them on Amazon for like $300. And I don't know how much the other one, the volume 2, was. Was that on a CD or something like that?
I got it on a CD for $50.
Oh, is that right?
And I don't know if he still has them, but I got it a couple of years ago, I think.
Might be able to get them from him or something, or maybe if enough people start asking for it, he'll republish it. But
ultimately, people need a political philosophy. Ours is constitutional republic, individual liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they need training. They need documentation. They need education. And in the end, what's the equipment of the militia member after all is said and done, and they have their books and their statutes and everything? You need a rifle, a dirk or saber. You need your equipment that you wear on your back, your boots, your accoutrement. Accoutrement.
Now you were telling me here about the militias in colonial days were better armed than the British regulars.
They were the Kentucky Rifles. They had Kentucky Rifles. They could shoot a deer at 200 or 300 yards. And the best the British regulars could do was about 100 yards, hit a man-sized target. So the American militia members had military-grade arms superior to those of enlisted soldiers.
In the British, in their opponent, the British. And so the idea that we're not supposed to have military-grade stuff is a bunch of crap. But anyways.
Well, how are you going to defend the Republic? A well-regulated militia being what?
Necessary.
Right. I mean, it's clear and unambiguous. It's necessary.
Yeah.
When the French and Indian War came about and the Indians came down and scalped people, do you think that there was no...
Oh, gee, we're so sorry.
Yeah. You better not use military-grade arms, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they scalped people.
I know.
I mean, these days we rely on used car dealers, but...
Ain't that the truth?
But we are in the fourth turning. You can expect things to continue to get bad, worse, and defend yourself, defend your home, defend your family, defend your children. Meet with your neighbors. Say to them, we must revitalize our traditions. This is America. What did Benjamin Franklin say about what kind of government did you give us, Dr. Franklin?
A republic if you can keep it.
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 So it's up to us. The baton is passed on to us. We need to take it and run with it. And I would encourage everybody to work with your local officials and try and do it within the law and support our local governments.
You don't have to go off on your own and make this all up. This is a pre-existing structure. We need to pull it out of the law books, dust it off, and put some life into it.
Well, and I've been at places where the people would come out in force, and the cops would be there, and the cops would say, "I can't do anything about this."
Yeah, really.
Cops would step right back because they know that it's up to the people are the ones that are in power. And so,
how's your Latin?
Well,
pretty good.
I'm not really.
Vox populi, vox Deus. What does that mean?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure.
The voice of the people is the voice of God. Ask any politician.
Yeah, there you
go.
Yeah. These crooks, and that's another thing. These stolen elections. The militia comes out and start supporting these elections, and I'll bet you things will change then too. Especially if these terrorists want to come out and start harassing people that are voting. I think that's a great place for militias.
Absolutely.
And
so provide security.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I'll tell you, I'll bet you that everything will change when that happens.
You know, I was going to say non-denominational, but I believe the real word is bipartisan, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Bipartisan. Yeah. It doesn't matter what your political alliances are.
No.
You know, we're all here. It's our country. It doesn't belong to somebody else. And these people that are coming across the border, you know, if they want to participate, I would say they're welcome to too.
As long as they do it by the law.
As long as they that's right. That's right. They can be part of we the people.
You know, I saw a video of some footage of Queen Elizabeth. She was disembarking off a plane, and you know how they have that platform that rolls up to the door, and you can step out. She stepped out and she looked across to America, and you could see on her face she was not happy that they had lost the colonies. This would have been her country. And it would have been you would be a British subject.
Yeah,
right? And you're an American citizen.
Yeah.
What a privilege.
And she doesn't know what I call her in my videos. Or Charles.
Charles?
I call her the bitch.
Charles?
And I call him the son of a bitch.
You know, who would you rather have, Prince Charles or Mario Cuomo? You know, at least they
neither one of them, quite frankly.
at least the crown, the royals lend a little dignity.
At least, well, you know, I don't know. I certainly don't. Not a fan of Mario Cuomo. That's for sure.
Oh my
Matter
God.
of fact, he needs to be in jail.
Oh my God.
In my opinion.
I was in Canada, and you know, it's a part of the Commonwealth, and I was going into a grocery store or something, and there was a Canadian woman coming out, and she looked rather dignified, and I said, "Good day," and she said, "Good day," and I said, "I understand the Royals are coming, Kate and William." She said, "Yes, we're pleased to welcome the Royals," and I said, "Really, you folks are so lucky. You have hereditary tyrants, and we in the States have to make do with common criminals that we elect." She kind of got a funny look on her face, walked away.
Yeah, hereditary thieves. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Well,
at least we get to pick them once in a while.
Yeah.
At least they let us think that we're picking them.
And at least we have the pretense of freedom.
Yeah.
It's better.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing at all.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Anyways, is there anything else that we want to say here for this?
I know. Hang on to your britches. Times are going to get very, very difficult.
It's going to be very difficult, and we need to start organizing militias within the law. They need to be within the law in support of our local governments. In the Texas codes, I noticed that the county militia, they talked about county militias. So maybe according to counties too. I don't know. I got to do some more research on it.
Well, if they were according to zip codes, they would be what?
Oh man,
They'd be federal.
That's zip codes is District of Columbia.
They would absolutely be federal. We need our militia in our
It's
control,
county militia.
our people.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And when the FBI comes along and says, "Don't trust the militia, trust us."
Yeah, right.
You know,
yeah, right.
Don't trust your neighbor.
Yeah.
Trust us. We know what's best for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Anyway,
Don't get me going. You're going to get me going.
All right. Well, I'm done pontificating for the evening.
Well, anyways, I'm going to upload this to YouTube. I think it was clean enough. And if not, it'll be on my exclusive channel. But there's another one I'm going to probably do on YouTube. But then there's going to be some that I'm going to put on my exclusive channel that are for, just because they might have something in them that YouTube might not like. But anyways, all right. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.